The way to slow down the clock is to give yourself completions. At the end of this sentence, I'm going to pause, and we will be complete in this entire presentation up until this moment. Here's the most dramatic completion I ever witnessed. I didn't realize what it was at the time. Again, years later, I reflected upon it and understood what it was. When I was 27 years old, I moved to Washington, D.C. from Connecticut. And the very first week that I was there, I was rooming with a friend I knew in college. I answered an ad in the paper to be part of a group house. That's what you did in the 70s. And this house with 2 women and 1 other guy was looking for a second guy. I answered the ad. I interviewed with them. They said yes. Bingo. Part of the group house. On the dining room table of the group house, this first few days that I was there, was an invitation to a party in the Foggy Bottom section of Washington, D.C. Is anybody familiar with Washington, D.C.? This is near George Washington University, reasonably close to the Kennedy Center, the State Department to the left, so on. Nice area, very nice area. So I see this invitation to a party. It's my first week in D.C. I'm going. Saturday night comes. I go to the party. It happens to be in some building where there's one particular room which is the Condo Association party room. So I find the Condo Association party room. I walk into the room. Great atmosphere, great everything. There's 3 women not 20 feet from the door. They're standing. They're not at tables with the wagons closed. So I go right over to them. Why not? I'm new, I'm in town, I don't know anybody, there's nothing to lose. I crash their circle. Mercifully, they let me in. And we're talking for just a few minutes when a man comes into the room. He's got slips of paper in his hand. And in this huge voice he says, "Would anybody like to see Katherine Hepburn at the Kennedy Center? I have 4 free tickets." The 4 of us are closest to him. I presume the other 3 know each other. I don't know them. But the 4 of us look up and say, "We'll take it." I mean, party your first week in D.C., that's good. Free tickets to see Katherine Hepburn at the Kennedy Center, that's great. 3 dates, sure. I like your thinking. We get in a taxi, even though it's easily walking distance. We're there with plenty of time. It turns out that these 4 tickets are the front row of the balcony. Not exactly center, a little off, but excellent, excellent seats. We can sit there, we can look down, we can see the whole thing. And this is my first time at the Kennedy Center as a D.C. resident. I had been there as a tourist. So I'm in this theater. They've got carpeting on the floor, carpeting that runs up the walls. It's a beautiful place. Got these chairs, men dressed in, these great suits and tuxedos, women with high hair. And the play goes off without a hitch. I'm watching the first act. I'm sitting here watching the Kennedy Center crowd, watching Katherine Hepburn, sitting with these 3 women. I'm thinking to myself, what a country. In the second act, somebody stands up during the time that Katherine Hepburn is delivering her lines and snaps a flash picture. The late 70s, it's not built into the camera. It's a flash attachment right about where you're sitting. What's your name? Yeah. JB? Okay. Jane. Something that begins with a J. Right where Jamie is sitting, somebody stands up and flash. Well, this is verboten in the legitimate theater. Katherine Hepburn, who's right in the middle of her lines, stops. And the whole place goes stone quiet. All little coughs or movement in the chair that you hear normally, everything just goes quiet. Like deep space. She walks to the front of the stage, and in that Katherine Hepburn voice, she points to the guy and she goes, "How rude! How utterly rude!" Now I'm up in the balcony. I haven't even done anything. And I wanted to die. I slinked down so the reel would just cover my face a little, because I knew if she looked up at me with those laser eyes, I might melt. And then she carefully floats back to right where she was in the middle of the stage, and without a hitch, continues on with her lines as if nothing had happened. The place remains stone quiet. I look at the ladies and I'm saying to myself, did that happen? Am I here? What is the meaning of reality? It becomes a pinch me kind of night. Then the third act comes and goes, and then everyone leaves, and they fill up the coffee shops and the bars all throughout Foggy Bottom, and I'm sure the topic of conversation is Katherine Hepburn reprimanding that guy in the middle of the performance. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you gotta really be, the grande dame. I mean, you just can't be any old actor and do that. And so we're talking and we're reflecting on it and we're saying, what a night. Then years go by on that one too, folks. It takes me a long time sometimes. About 10, 15 years go by, I finally get this incident into perspective. Katherine Hepburn was a master of completions. This guy soiled her art. And instead of simply sloughing it off or pretending it didn't happen, where she probably would have just bottled it up and had it, irritate her all night, and when she walked across the way there to the Watergate Hotel and went to sleep that night, she might have been tossing and turning over this thing. Instead, she dealt with it right on the spot, got over it, went right back to what she was doing. Now, that might not be the way you or I would proceed, and I can't tell you exactly what she was thinking, because not Katherine Hepburn, but it occurs to me that she probably slept soundly that night, and most other nights, in relation to relations with the patrons. If she had a fine audience, that was fine. If she had somebody that wasn't so fine, she would take care of it, she would move on.